Good morning and welcome to Walking Through the Word for today. And as we look at this crucifixion of Jesus, we left it in verse 23. When the soldiers were crucifying Jesus, they took his clothes and they were casting lots. They were gambling for Jesus' stuff. And this is an important scene, and we're gonna talk about this. But again, as we visited with before, John omits a number of things that are in other accounts of the gospel. And one of those famous phrases that Jesus utters that is not mentioned here is my God, why have you forsaken me?" And people kind of wonder, why did Jesus say this? Well, today this actually answers that question. In verse 23 of chapter 19, when the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into four shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. "Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled that said, "They divided my clothes among them and cast my lots for my garment." So this is what the soldier did. Now, why is this verse so significant? Well, it comes from Psalm 22. And if you go over to Psalm 22, you see a very familiar phrase that is at the very beginning of it. So make it a point to stop the video and read Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish?" What Jesus was actually doing was pointing people to the Psalms. And the reason why he was pointing them to this psalm is because if you read this, you will recognize that there is a significant portion of this that is a direct reference to the Messiah, to Jesus, to what is going to happen. "My bones are on display, and people stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." That's verse 17 and 18 of this psalm. This is, "Deliver me from the sword, my precious life. Rescue me from the mouth of lions." These are talking about what the Messiah is going to do and how he will do it. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, "He has done it. It is finished," in verse 31 of Psalm 22. So as you read Psalm 22, use the two. Go back and forth between John 19 and this and recognize that what Jesus is doing is, again, as John says, that scripture might be fulfilled. Everything that Jesus has done, every dot and tittle, is to make sure that scripture is fulfilled in its entirety. I have a book. It's called The Messianic Prophecies of the Bible. And the gentleman that wrote the book has over 300 messianic prophecies that he says Jesus fulfilled. Now, full disclosure, I'm not 100% sure that all of them were actually messianic prophecies. I feel like maybe sometime this guy kind of pulled some random ones out. But what we do know is there were a significant number of prophecies about the Messiah. And Jesus fulfilled every single one, which, by the way, even if you were deciding, "Hey, I'm going to be the Messiah and I'm going to fulfill all of these prophecies," there are many of them that you would have no ability to fulfill because you would have no control over them. And yet Jesus is able to fulfill every single one of them. Not by accident, not by happenstance or by luck, but because he is the Messiah. No one before or since is able to do what Jesus did. No one before or since is able to meet those prophetic visions that were happened over the course of hundreds and even thousands of years that came about from the time of Adam and Eve all the way to the time of Jesus being hung on the cross. There were hundreds of prophecies that were made about the Messiah, and Jesus met every single one of them all the way until the cross. Now, verse 25, near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved, that's John, standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that time on, this disciple took her into his home. Even on the cross, Jesus was fulfilling his obligations as the oldest son. We know at some point Joseph died. We don't know why or how or when Joseph died, but we know that he did, and that Jesus, as the eldest, was tasked with the responsibility of taking care of his mother. And even on the cross, Jesus was fulfilling this. Once again, proving Jesus' selflessness, Jesus' love for humanity, love for his mother, and making sure that even in the throes of death, that others are being saved and being cared for. Okay, we will continue our scripture reading through this tomorrow.